General Law, Chapter 38, Section 20. The chair must inquire whether anyone else is recording this meeting, if so, please make their presence known. All right, ready for roll call.
Councilors, Mendez,
Present.
Turkelson,
Here.
Bloom,
Here.
Burdick,
Present.
Clark. You have quorum.
All right, do you want to do, we don't really need to vote on the minutes. Because we have meeting minutes. Do you want to vote on the minutes and stuff so she can be here for the interviews?
That's up to you.
All right, let's do the minutes and all that. House cleaning stuff so until she gets here. You want to make a motion?
Make a motion to accept the minutes from May 1st, 2024, and May 6th, 2024, and May 15th, 2024 as written.
Second. Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous.
Yeah, so open up for public comment.
Anyone for public comment?
Mr. Williams was here thorough.
Okay, well, I guess we have to start the interviews. Mr. Murphy,
Yes, sir.
you're the first one in the fire line.
Okay, where do I sit?
Just sit over
Thank you.
there. Yeah, and
John Murphy, Sir Charlie. John Murphy.
Kristen.
John Murphy.
Nice to meet you.
Very nice to meet you. Meet you, John Murphy. Appreciate you taking time.
well, I appreciate you coming in. Well, we appreciate you coming in. Now, I truly don't have any questions because I'm aware of Mr. Murphy's record as far as a police officer at FBI. I know that he had the position that Chris Kelsey has now.
Not exactly, sir.
Okay,
I did start out in that capacity a little bit, but under Chief McDonald, I was appointed as the chief liaison to the licensing authority initially.
Mhm.
And then they created the consumer affairs position while I was serving as the chief's liaison. So I worked with Therese Galland and Chris Kelsey and Steve Esty.
okay. And I know that he's come very highly recommended, so I will pass the questions on to Councilman Jefferson.
I'm just curious why this board at this time for you?
I retired from the police department in August of 2022. After almost 40 years in sworn law enforcement. I took a year off from work and then started a part-time position with the Plymouth County District Attorney's Office as an investigator. And I'd like to still continue to live in the town of Barnstable. My kids were born and raised here. And I feel blessed and grateful to be a part of this community. And at this time in my life, I have a little bit more time on my hands than I did before. And so I would like to give back. And I thought this particular board would be a perfect fit for me, given my past experience working with the board and the stakeholders in the community, which was part of my job on the police department, but also part of the board, very important part of the board. So that's why it seems to be the right thing at the right time.
So you've had enough time off to back to it.
Yes, I believe so.
Excellent, thank you.
Councilman Burdick.
So, I read your whole CV, very impressive. Just, I guess, as it pertains to this, I'm just curious, I always ask questions that I'm curious about, not necessarily what your names or what we're.
No, that's fine. I'm here for you. I'm here for you.
How did you go from detective in Barnstable to FBI special agent?
I actually applied to the FBI in the late 80s, early 90s. And at that time, I was not married, and I didn't have any kids, but I was on the police department, any children. And the FBI had a hiring freeze at that time. And I continued my career in the police department and went up to the detective division, and the FBI started hiring again. And they gave me a call, and I went through the process and decided to do it with some trepidation, because it meant moving to who knows where. And when I graduated from Quantico, they sent me to Newark, New Jersey. I was the plan my family would follow me to Newark, New Jersey. but leaving the Cape's a very hard thing to do, you know? And, so my family stayed behind for a little bit until I got my lay of the land in New Jersey, and next thing you know, 5 years went by very, very quickly, and I was an absentee landlord in my own house, which I wasn't very comfortable commuting back and forth on weekends. And then the FBI was gracious enough to offer me a supervisory spot in Los Angeles, California. And I didn't want to move to Los Angeles, because that's a pretty long commute from LA to the Cape. I couldn't do that in a 5-hour drive. So I spoke to Chief Finnegan, and he was gracious enough to take me back. And I came back, and I think it was the best decision. I think things always happen for a reason. I was able to spend another 20 years here with the police department and watch my kids grow up and be a part of this community, as opposed to who knows where I would have been out in Los Angeles.
Well, that's very interesting. That's pretty much, that has answered my question. Thank you very much. I think you're really qualified to do that. So I'm saying for it, so Council Booth?
Sure, one of your fans, great fans, called me up and said that you were the kind of person who knew the difference between someone who made a mistake, someone who is a criminal. Could you just talk about that a little bit? First, is it true?
Well, I don't know. You know, it's hard to gauge the opinions of other people. You know, I kind of live my life to the way I was raised, with a set of values. And growing up, I was always taught at a very, very early age that everyone deserves a second chance, regardless of the situation, if they show a real ability to learn from their mistakes, acknowledge their mistakes, and move on. I think that's part of the growing process, you know? And as a police officer, I always wanted to, the difficult part about being a police officer, you asked the question, so now I'm gonna take some time to answer. The difficult part of being a police officer is you always see people at their worst sometimes. You know, either they're a victim of a car accident or a crime, or something's impacted their family, or they're involved in some criminal activity. You never see someone on their best day. So I always try to live my life as there go the grace of God for life. And that's the way I've led my life, and I think that is how I've treated people, and then it's nice to hear that other people have recognized that. I try not to be the type of person that thinks that they're better than anybody else. I try to walk in another man's shoes before I fall into how they get there.
Well, I certainly appreciate that. And the amazing thing is that not only can you tell the difference between someone who's made a mistake, but you also have a pretty phenomenal arrest record. And you were able to kind of clean up Main Street.
One of the things that I was blessed with is a love of this community, and I was presented the opportunity by Chief McDonald to start what they called the Safe Streets Street Crime Task Force, the Street Crime Unit, and that was a time in the late 2009, 2010, where Hyannis was going through a pretty difficult time in the downtown area with an element that wasn't here for vacation, and wasn't here for a good time. They were here for the negative reasons. And being in the hospitality industry, which this town is a part of it, it's very important to have that sense of safety, that sense that you can take your family out on Main Street, Hyannis, and enjoy a good time. So we organized this unit, and we were able to identify what the problems were and correct them in a way that I'm pretty proud of. And I don't mind, not one that likes to pat myself on the back, because I certainly did do it alone and with a lot of help from a lot of people. I did a small part, but we're able to identify what the problems were and deal with those problems. And one of those problems was getting the bar owners and the restaurant folks to come together and sit on the same page. Early on, we witnessed like a situation where someone might be involved in a violent confrontation at a nightclub, and get trespassed from there and be involved with the police department, but be on Main Street the very next night across the street at another place to wreak havoc again. And to me, that made no common sense, no logical sense. So we were able to think outside the box a little bit, sit the business community down, work with the police department and the town leaders, town councils, and the town attorneys. And we came up with a solution that if someone was trespassed in one establishment in Main Street Hyannis, if the other businesses wanted to, it wasn't like you had to, if they wanted to, they could do it as well. So it kind of sent a message that if you want to come down here, regardless of where you're from or what you're about, you want to come down here and have a good time and enjoy a night out, follow the rules you can. And it sent a pretty strong message, and I think it was pretty successful. Without any civil liability lawsuits or anything like that.
That's remarkable in itself. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your service to our town.
Thank you for having me.
Very much appreciate your perspective. Your actions speak louder than words. Your record speaks volumes. And I have no further questions. I council advocates and fans.
It's always nice to know that you have fans, but I know no matter what station you are in life, you have fans and you have detractors. So it's very, you shouldn't read your own press clippings, you know? You shouldn't read your own press clippings, become a fan of your own press clippings, and just kind of be humble. I like to think myself to be humble.
Just on a personal note, I was joking with John when he came in here. Well, I haven't seen him since he chased us off the backside of Hathaway, hiding down there in high school and stuff like that. But I just want you to know that you have the reputation of being very fair, being very measured. You have the respect of everybody across the board. Of course, you're gonna have those who don't like you that you probably arrested, but for the vast general public, you always had that reputation. I mean, it was when we were having a party or whatever, and the police would come down and break it up, that they always knew when John said, okay, get your cars and go home, that it was time to go home. But he was always respected and always was a man of his word, and his reputation was. So I just thought you should know that.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate those kind words.
You're welcome. Thank you very much. You'll be hearing from Cynthia.
Okay.
All right. Thanks again. Good seeing you.
Appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
so much.
And thank you for your service for the town, being a town council. Okay, wow, that's very exciting. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Dr. Lutzko.
Dan.
Oh, how you doing? Jeff.
Nice to meet you.
Charlie. Nice to meet you.
Kristen.
Oh,
Appreciate
appreciate
Yeah.
your patience, so
Hard to get out of the ER.
in the summer it is.
So why the Board of Health at this time?
Well, as you know, I'm coming up to reappointment, so.
Sure.
I mean, I've just enjoyed serving on the board for the last several years, and it's, I'm glad to have an opportunity to serve, the people of town in some respect, any respect. It seems like a pretty good fit. And, my experience with the board has been very good, and the time commitment is doable for me, so, I think all those things play into it. So it's not like, being on the council, I had the pleasure of sitting in through one of your meetings where we needed to attend, and they're pretty long.
Just a little bit.
So, you know, our meetings are pretty efficient. So although I know we're probably likely to have an increase in workload coming with the sewer connections, you know, there's gonna be a lot more that's gonna be coming to the board in terms of people asking for extensions, and it's gonna be a big workload. Not sure if there's, you know, how the supply and demand is gonna work out in terms of people needing to connect to sewer and companies being available to connect them to sewer and what that's gonna do to the pricing and people's ability, but, so I think we will see probably a big increase in the workload. But I love the way the board functions, you know, no set of rules or regulations applies perfectly to every situation. And so, you know, the board provides that human element to work things out between, you know, the citizens of the town and the town regulations, which are there for everybody's benefit. And just very much appreciated the spirit in how that's done. You know, working with John Norman, Tom Lee, John, I know is not gonna sign up again. With that in mind, we really could use, another civil engineer. If anybody knows any good civil engineers, because you have, you know, if you agree to my reappointment, I mean, you'll have 2 physicians and 2 dentists, and 1 engineer. But the bulk of the work is related to sewer. So, I mean, we are able to navigate the discussions and I think weigh in with measured opinions, but we do not have the knowledge base that the engineers do. So that's something that occurred to me. I was just talking to John before I came in here, and it's a big loss with John stepping down. Because of his extensive experience working in town government, and also because of his knowledge base. So, and Tom has an excellent knowledge base, but it would be nice to have another person come onto the board that has that experience. So I asked John if he could, you know, keep the word out, but if anybody through the town council knows of anyone, that would really strengthen the board, particularly with what's going to be coming up.
You stole my next question, because I was going to ask you, what do you think the board needs, but you answered that, so
Yeah.
Councilor Turkelson.
I'm just curious, with the increasing amount of potential work related
Yeah.
to sewer connections, and just, you know, the time commitment it requires and the meetings that you've missed and the re-interviewing that you've missed, how do you feel? I mean, I'll be honest, I have reservations about reappointing you based on those 2 facts.
Yes,
Because, you know, I recognize it's a commitment, I recognize you have a higher level of responsibility in your day job.
yeah.
So I guess I'm just wondering, you know, that how you could rectify that for me, because that's a big reason I wouldn't be supporting your reappointment.
Yeah, I think that would be a great conversation to have with Tom Lee. So the reason we needed 3 is because Tom sits on another committee that occasionally interferes with the time with the Board of Health. So if the committee met at 4, I would be able to make, you know, 100%, nearly 100% of the meetings. Because it's at 3 and my ER shifts, my day shift in the ER ends at 3, that's the issue. So I talked to Tom about that this week. And he said that it's rare that there's a conflict between his 2 meetings. So he could, on a monthly basis, adjust the time of the meeting. I'm not necessarily in favor of that. That's one solution, but there's, I think, great value to having the meeting at a predictable time, you know, for everybody versus changing the times, 3 p.m. one month, 4 p.m. the next month. I think there's, you know, if you do that, you run the risk of, you know, people missing the meetings. So I'm not sure that's the best solution. But with that said, you know, I do the best I can to get there, but that's the only reason I'm not making the meetings. And if the time was an hour later, then that would be fixed.
Okay.
So.
Sure.
And as far as, you know, obviously getting more immersed in this with the issue being brought forward about the DEP letter that I received that was asked Suzanne Connolly asking for the Board of Health to pick up that work.
Yeah.
And just two kind of questions about that is, I find it interesting that the Board of Health has no public comment in your meetings. Is that something that you would consider with new leadership, that you would make public comment a regular part of the Board of Health? Because it seems like a lot of the other boards, we have public comment, that zoning ad hocs have public comment. So the Board of Health doesn't have public comment, and I'm just wondering if that's something that you would ask your fellow members to include as a regular part of the meeting, to increase transparency, public engagement. I know each item has the ability to comment.
Yeah.
But there might be other Board of Health issues that people are interested in that are within the purview of what the board does, so I'm wondering how you feel about that.
Yeah, I would fully support that, because I think there is no downside really to having increased public discussion. So I did notice at yesterday's meeting that there were several people there, and the chair, made the decision not to have public comment, and I saw a couple people look pretty frustrated and walk out. And my very thought at that time was, actually, I'd love to hear what they have to say. So, yeah, I would be fine with that.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Counselor Burdick.
Sure, I come up with a question.
Sure.
But so I don't have your CV right in front of me. Would you give us the 3-minute, well, here it is, but would you, for the record, give us the 3-minute rundown of your career and your?
Sure. So my education was Dartmouth College undergrad with high honors, and then I graduated from UMass Med School, and then I went to Johns Hopkins and did my residency there in emergency medicine. And I was in San Antonio working for the Baptist healthcare system down there for about 10 years. I was the chief of emergency medicine at one of the hospitals for several years, and then I was back on Cape, and I was here at Cape Cod Hospital for a couple of years, and at Falmouth Hospital for 7 or 8 years, and for the last 6 years, I've been, excuse me, a partner with the First Physicians Corporation, which runs Toby Hospital's ER and Charlton Memorial Hospital.
Very good. Very good. Thank you very much. And, well, I guess one more follow-up. So it's been, how many years that you've been on the Board of Health currently?
Where am I at? 5? Somewhere in there? Yeah.
And, you've done well so far.
Pre-COVID.
Pre-COVID, and how do you feel about the state of the Board of Health and the work that you've been doing, and you feel positively about how everything has been going? And
Yeah, I think what I've shared so far is a pretty good summation of it. Yeah, the work's really good.
absolutely.
I've been very happy to, again, it's that human element of, bringing town government and the citizens together and working it out.
Absolutely.
And doing the absolute best we can, really, to just weigh the competing interests, right? And weigh the risks and the benefits of each individual situation. So.
Great, thank you. That's all for me. Also, far.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mendes, and thank you for taking the time to apply and to serve our community as a volunteer. I do agree with Councilor Turkelson that providing an agenda, an avenue for residents to have some public comment, not to suck the oxygen out of the meetings, but but for there to be an opportunity for people to have share concerns or issues that as it relates to the Board of Health would be a welcome feature of the meetings. And I hear you about the 3 o'clock start. I am also very sensitive to people who work for a living and work traditional work hours.
Yeah.
And 3 o'clock does seem to be a little more of an imposition for, especially as it relates to your job. So I hear you, and if there's a way to adjust it to 4 o'clock, I think that would be a good
Compromise.
a compromise, but a way to be more inclusive for working people.
Yes.
Retired people don't have the restrictions as working people do during the day. They have to take time off to make a 3 o'clock meeting. So I understand that. I think you've done a good job serving, and I do have concerns about attendance, but I can understand now that you explained how it goes. Perhaps the new format can the new chair might be willing to embrace this compromise.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to think that I have been helpful to the board and useful in the meetings. If there is an issue here, for sure, I think if the time were different, I might miss 2 meetings a year, you know, for just vacation or whatever. And I think if your choices were not to reappoint me because of that issue or work on changing the meetings, I would say it'd be better to change the meeting time, because I don't know how easy it is to bring another person onto the board, and particularly now we're down with John. But those are your choices. Yeah. So
We have had other candidates interested in the board.
great, we need one.
So with the alternate, I had voiced support in the past for taking an alternate and elevating the alternate to a full appointment. And that's not on our agenda for a discussion, but perhaps that should be the pattern that we have for somebody who served as an alternate.
Absolutely.
But that's all, thank you very much.
I do have the concerns about attendance and, are you driving all the way from Toby?
Yes.
When you come here?
If I'm working, but if I'm not working, then it's, I'm here, it's not a problem, so.
From what I've seen, your performance on the board is great. And you ask a lot of questions, you're very active. And, you know, if the meeting was starting at 4 o'clock, I know for sure that I would support your but I just have to.
Sure.
So you can take a look at the past. Do we know how many? Well, I guess we. I'm in general very supportive of. It's just that.
So is it relevant? Is relevant?
Yeah, and we, you know, I talked about it with John and with Tom. Yeah, and I talked about it with Tom this past week, actually. So, and he explained to me further, as I said, that, you know, it's only once in a while that his other meeting, his other committee conflicts with the Board of Health, but I don't know the details on that, so. But whatever decision you make, I am fine with, so, I mean, I love serving, but, you know, but if you need someone who can be there on a more regular basis at 3 o'clock, then I understand that as well, so.
I'm not sure how many doctors can have that flexibility at this stage.
It's, yeah, it can be a big ask, yeah.
But I also wanted to let you know that another fellow from the board approached me after the meeting yesterday.
Yeah.
He's the one that was sitting way over on, as I'm looking at the guys on the left.
Yeah, yeah.
And he said the same thing you said, that, you know, you need somebody who understands the business of septic systems, you know. I don't know if whoever you get needs to be a civil engineer necessarily, or someone who really understands septic systems, maybe someone who's a tradesman in the field or something like that.
I think that would probably be equally good, yeah, but somebody with experience in that field.
Sure. If we didn't have somebody in that field, let's just say that person didn't exist.
Yeah.
How does the board, without that expertise, who is it that the board relies on to have those questions and ask those questions and get answers?
Yes, so if you've ever, if you have had a chance to listen in on any of the meetings, you're going to rely on the town, you know, so it's going to be, you know, it's going to be Tom that we talk to, the Department of
Tom Lee?
Tommy
Oh,
King.
sorry.
Yeah,
Too many Toms.
Right, so, you know, the typical format when a question's brought before the board, right, is first to solicit public input, public comment, and then the next step is going to be to ask for the towns, for Tom's opinion. And so we would rely on the experts of the town, but it's really nice when you have John and Tom Lee there, is they can take what are sometimes conflicting viewpoints between the town and the citizen, and they can elucidate, you know, what's the deeper issues going on there, and they're able to explain it to the rest of us. Unfortunately, you know, it's not rocket science, so we can understand it well enough to, I think, navigate it and make appropriate decisions, but it is, you do need the knowledge base.
And if you had an instance where there was a discrepancy between the resident and the town, would that be an item that you would put a pause on and say, we'll come to the next meeting to get that figured out?
Yes,
Because you don't have,
if we
and
can't,
then you would seek other expert guidance through the town or through other, maybe tradesmen or something to find the answer to that if you had
yeah,
two
and
separate opinions. I'm just wondering how you would go from, what you would do from there.
that has already happened. You know, so situations like that have already come up, and then yes, you have to seek, you don't want to come to a decision with inadequate facts. So yeah, you would put it on pause and you would seek additional information.
All set. All right, great.
Okay,
Thank you for coming in.
yeah, I appreciate it. Okay.
Very nice meeting you.
Nice to meet you. Thanks, okay. Have a good day.
So, illustrious Eric Schwab. Welcome back.
The third time it's swinging.
All right, so this is behind waterfront.
Yes.
We've interviewed you several times, so what would you like to say?
Well, you're losing all your designers. Just didn't go through architects bit. Frankly, I've been manhandled by this committee, and the designers don't like that. The designers expect to be treated a little bit better. And you're not gonna get an architect in on this committee until you influence us. You have to take the politics out of it. I've heard some just incredible things said about me behind my back, you know, and you gotta really watch that. Okay, so my suggestion is set aside your personal biases, judge someone on the merits. It's my recommendation. Okay, I'm the only one who's applied, who's done design work. Okay, I ran a design team for master plan communities for 7 years out of Boston. We were the largest design firm in the East Coast for master plan communities. Every time people talk about Main Street, they say, where's the master plan? Where's the map? Where's the model? Where's the fly through? I used to make them. Okay, that's what I did from 2001 to 2008. Okay, you need designers, you need creative talent, and creative talent's a pain in the ass. I'm sorry, but that's kind of what it is. Okay, and you need to have at least one creative on this board. Now that maybe you need to have. Okay, Amanda, I think, is a good voice for the business community. She's level-headed, right? She's a good business person. But then you need a resident and you need an architect. So you really got to hold the line. You have to hold the line. You need an architect, you need a resident. So I really hope that today you do the right thing for Hyannis and give us a chance, give us a voice.
Council Turco. Council Burke.
I don't think I have any questions for you.
Have you looked at my design guidelines that I did?
The ones that you said, did you send them directly to us? Was it in response to when?
When I first applied, I sent this 30-page design guidelines for Hyannis.
And I've read the ones that give response to the, is it the form-based code or the comprehensive? Because you had a long one about form-based code. as well.
Well, I think you should ask a question about that because it's coming out quite a bit.
Yeah.
Okay? And it came up, when we were at the ad hoc zoning meeting.
The first one, the second one. the one that
Steve
was-
Robichaud was there.
Yes.
Okay, and they're all about design right. Okay, there are no design guidelines for downtown. The planning board, which doesn't have designers, okay, has approved design guidelines. The historic Main Street has not approved. And I've looked at both and I reconciled them, and I wrote a 30-page document about
Right.
how they work, right? Design is not Mr. Potato. Like, you don't get a potato and a lip and a nose and put them together and call that design. It's not.
Right.
Okay? Listen,
It depends. You want me to ask you more
I
questions?
wanted to ask a question, yeah,
You want me to ask 8 questions?
yes.
Pertaining to what? Pertaining to design, pertaining to your personal?
Pertaining, why you didn't vote for me last time, what am I doing wrong that makes you unhappy?
Me personally, why, I don't mind answering that question, yeah, I don't dislike you, I think you're a nice guy. I think you're eloquent, and loquacious, and I think you're involved, and you have a lot of definite opinions, but I don't think you're so opinionated that you are prejudiced in one way or another about a given topic. But as I've said to people, or in private conversation, not necessarily at a public meeting, is that when it comes to me and the appointments that I am voting for on these committees, that sometimes I like to avoid, for lack of a better term, would be a lightning rod, right? And not because I think that people who have a lot to say about a given topic are not the kind of people that we want to have involved, but I think that sometimes if you are very outspoken about a given topic, it may cloud the issues and the intercourse and the dialogue that you have on a given topic. And so that frankly is why last time you came up, I voted against you, not because I dislike you or think that you're a crackpot for any of those reasons, but as when it comes to a lot of these different people in positions that I have made a decision on one way or another, that's one of the important things that I think about. Qualification is very important, obviously, and interest is very important, and the ability to, add value to the community or whatever. But sometimes I think that it doesn't serve the purpose of the committee if you're going to have too big a lightning rod.
So let me move on.
Oh, feel free. I mean, that's just my opinion.
I understand, and I want to rebut that, because I expected you to have that opinion, and I know that there are other people that have that opinion, okay? This committee is already like, okay? The way in which you.
Excuse me, you mean this committee, meaning the appeals committee?
Oh,
or-
excuse me.
Okay.
Okay,
Um,
so the way in which you reappointed, didn't handle the reappointments on this field committee, you got a kickback from town council, okay? So that's a lightning rod. I'm not a lightning rod. That's a lightning rod.
Right, which I was unaware of the mechanics behind that whole.
Yeah, I think everyone was, and that's why there's a critic is like. So we need to depoliticize this situation. Okay, we need to calm down. We need to judge people based on their merits. Okay, give them an opportunity to prove themselves and get this committee functioning. It is not. And I, for one, commit to recruiting an architect. Okay, I was meeting with one Saturday, works out of Barnstable. So we need to get architects on this committee. In fact, if we get more than one, I would suggest we expand it, right? But we need to be successful for designers. We need designers. And you need to depoliticize all this lightning rods talk.
Well, depoliticize, I mean, that's your term, that's relative. I'm not politicized personally, for my end of it. Maybe, but I can say that you politicize at the same time. We can say that about one
Yeah,
another.
we're in polar extremes. It's totally fair. We're in polar opposites. That's okay.
I don't know necessarily polar opposites, but we may have different opinions on different topics. But if you will say to me, Seth, I will depoliticize this to the best of my ability, and I say, Eric Schwab, I will depoliticize this to the best of my ability, then, then that's fine. You should. All right.
No, I think we should, because it has to happen. Because it's going nowhere. We're spinning a circle. The Board of Health is the latest fiasco, right? And it's what's happening is it's massicized, right? All these committees are getting overly politicized. I mean, I was on the phone, I have watched the Board of Health 3 times in my life, right? I got 5 calls on the Board of Health, It's like, you guys gotta pay attention to what's happening. These committees are gonna slow it on you. We don't collectively as a town, as a community, make an effort to depoliticize.
Right. Well, that's exactly it. And that's what I'm saying to you and you're saying to me. And I think that there's something to be said for that across the board, because I don't think of my approach, and this is divergent from what our topic here really is, but I don't think of myself as being particularly political about these things. I'm relatively new to this, so, you know, I know how I handle myself in my other affairs, but, you know, you have to, nothing exists in a vacuum. Like for you, you know, it goes both ways.
I totally get it.
So I think that it's
We had,
important.
everyone had really high expectations, right? When you came on board, no one really knew you, but everyone was like really excited. Everyone was excited when Jeff took over. I've been going out of my way to, you know, get to know the guy and approach him. So I think you have a better appreciation for my style. And I need to ask you to vote based on those interactions and not rude and innuendo. Okay? I understand that, you know, there have been different opinions on political issues. You know, I didn't like the 4.5-story building on 307, but it got approved, it got funded. But I'm allowed to have an opinion. As a citizen, as a resident of Hyannis, I'm allowed to have an opinion. I respectfully approached each and every one of those committees. I shared my opinion, right? And I shouldn't be penalized for that when I'm now trying to get on a committee that deals with these issues in a more formal manner. You can't say, oh, you can't give it to Schwab because, you know, he was against 307. You can't do that. Because I did everything properly and respectfully. And graciously lost. They should be happy of me.
Well, I mean, just so you know, I may not be as eloquent as that, but the reason why I voted against you is because maybe, yeah, Leighton Rod, and the question I asked is about getting along with people. You and I have a perfectly fine relationship, in my opinion. We've worked together on things. That's fine, okay, because I can take it. But when you have volunteers and committees and they're constantly getting attacked, that's a problem for me. It just is. But online and stuff like that, I mean, I don't read all that stuff, but
If you don't read it, how can you have that?
because I hear people telling me about it all the time. You know? But anyway, look, that's neither here nor there. You know, I will look at you on this thing here, and I'll vote for you fairly, because like I said, we work together and stuff. And I have no problem with you.
Okay.
No problem with you on a personal level.
Okay.
You've never done anything to me personally. You can criticize my politics all you want, which is fine. That's, you know.
I don't think I
that's
actually
what we're
ever have.
No, you haven't. Not that I know of. Not that I know of. I can say that, and like I said, you and I have worked together before, and we're currently working together on the Hyannis stuff. And so I have nothing, it's never anything personal. It's not.
It's not personal, but there's a big issue, which is Hyannis as a community, okay? And, you know, you and I peeled off a piece of Hyannis that we can work together on.
Sure.
Okay? And now you gotta peel off this other piece, which is too political, okay? And help me equal this up. You have to help me.
I do agree with you as far as the last, you know, year or two, whatever, it seems like things are getting more political. I do agree with you that, because there's no denying.
So
You know what I mean?
So
And
today, you gotta put a stake in the ground to say, today, we're gonna depoliticize ministry. Okay, you have to put that stake in the ground, it's gonna tear this community apart. Okay? It will, you can't have one side totally dominant. Okay, you gotta balance the voices. Okay, you're still gonna have the votes, you can still always gonna be 2-3, so you're always gonna win, okay? But you have to have balance. And that's why I'm here. It's not because honestly, I'd rather go the way of the other two architects that put out each, okay? But you need to have a designer with an opinion, and you need to make room for that. You know,
well, like I said, all I can do is speak for myself. And on any of these boards and committees, you've watched plenty of it. Whether it's the ad hoc on infrastructure, zoning infrastructure, who did I nominate? People who work in that field. Yeah. That's what I am. I'm not a professional in that aspect. So I depend on them for knowledge and know-how.
Yep.
I can bring the common sense things, but I can't bring the technical.
yeah, I think
So that's
so cultural perspective.
So that's, you know, that's how I look at these things. Board of health, doctors, engineers. That's how I look at it. Myself personally. Okay, so I agree with you in principle, absolutely. Could we use an architect? Absolutely. Absolutely.
So hold the line today, okay,
Yeah.
hold the line on the architecture role. Okay, don't just fill the whole thing up just because you feel you have to, okay, I know you guys are doing a lot of work. Okay, pick a high-end resident today, if that's all you got. Okay, and then hold the line for an architect.
Yeah, no, I mean, like I said, it's here what we have to do. You know, we have to pick a district resident when they're available. It's right there in black and white, so that's what we have to do, that's what we're gonna do. You know, but I just don't want you to ever think, I can speak for myself, it's not personal.
I don't get that impression, it's not personal with me either, so it's about good policy for the community.
Yeah.
And that's what we have to put front and center with the town. And help the town, we have to put IS, and IS is a village in its own right, it's allowed to have the village center, the IS residents are allowed to have an opinion about their village center.
Absolutely.
So that's what I'm about, and that's where I'm trying to drive us, and that's why I keep doing that.
No, I didn't, hey. You give me any for persistence. But like I said, I mean, like, all I can do is speak for myself, and you should know by now it's not personal. Because like I said, if it was a personal thing, we wouldn't work together on it.
Again,
So,
still to be unbiased.
no, there's no bias, believe me, there's no bias. I don't put I don't know how anybody on any of these committees that I place, personally, friendship wise, I don't. I just put the best person I think is for the things, and not only educational wise, not only as far as occupational wise, but who can get along with others, personality wise, there's a lot more to consider than just one thing. That's how I do it. Because I try to get along with everybody, and I just want everybody to get along and have respect for each other. You can have differences as long as it's respect.
But that's what we're trying to get to.
Yeah.
That's what we're trying to get. We're trying to get there.
Yeah.
Okay, because I know this change is hard, and I know this resistance to change, okay? Like, you know, we're trying to let new people in, okay? We're trying to get different perspective. Okay? So you have to let that in, okay? I know this, as much as you don't want to, you have to let it.
Opinions go both ways. That's one thing too, that, you know, your opinions have been your views or my views or Charlie's views, or Kristen's views, or whomever else's views can be diametrically opposed for very valid reasons on both sides. So there are, you know, you say, well, don't be biased, but it could just be an opinion that is based on whatever Jeff's experience, you know what I'm saying? That
I totally
you
get it.
can't just automatically assume that, there's a lot of that right now that's going on, that everybody's opinion is, you know, just because you feel a certain way, then it's automatically wrong, if someone else feels, you know what I mean, everybody's opinions are different.
It's terribly,
And that's
it's terribly polarized on every level, not
because
just the town.
because of the people's opinions vary broadly based on all sorts of different reasons. And so there could be any number of different ways to look at the topics that we're discussing, or that you would discuss in this committee, or any committee, or any setting, and any whatever. And the acceptance of the fact that those opinions exist. You know, you could say it, you could call that bias, you could call that, you know, whatever you want to say. That there are different opinions. And that's unfortunately what we all have to live with.
You have to let them out. So, you know, even like the doctor was here just a moment ago, he said, you know, he's totally open to discussion with the Board of Health. Like, why isn't there discussion on the Board of Health? You know, why can't we have a discussion about design? You know, why, you know, design there are different aspects of design. You know, people argue about, you know, food, you should hear us argue about, you know, color green, you know.
No, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand where you're coming from. I really. I just, I think it's important that we, as you said, respect one another's opinions and not try to necessarily attach or assign motivations to those opinions based on your own opinion or his own opinion or my own opinion of why someone has that opinion. That's exactly what you're talking about. But it goes both ways. Anyway, I have nothing more to say about that. So.
Thank you, I appreciate you.
No, of course.
Speaking of.
Want me to go? Eric, you're the smartest guy in the room, wherever you are.
I think so.
You are. But I thought you were never going to apply for a position on a committee if I were involved in the decision-making process.
Well, I think you should look at the context of that, okay? And ask yourself if you really do want to.
If I really do want to vote,
I mean, you recused yourself previously, nothing's really changed, your filings are the same. Right? I mean, I
I'm
don't,
done with the recusal.
you can decide for yourself if you want, whatever you want, it's fine, but, you know, I think you should recuse yourself, frankly. But if you don't want to, that's your decision.
Why should I recuse myself?
It's a private matter, you shouldn't really discuss it.
I think if there's a reason for me to recuse myself, because you need to.
I think you should look at your campaign filings and consider it really.
Are you threatening me?
Why am I threatening you?
Are you threatening me?
Not at all threatening you. I suggested that perhaps you don't want to vote.
You'll never get my vote for anything.
You already made that clear, so what does it matter? You sent me blistering emails about nothing. Come on. There's some other thing going on.
I'm waiting for some day when Eric Schwab will be not the nasty bitch that you seem to be.
Come on, now let's have some decorum.
Sounds like a long about. But we got.
Yeah,
This
let's have some.
I understand.
You know what I mean, like this.
I don't even know what that's about. But I
No,
don't need
and we're not gonna get into it, we're not gonna get into it.
Someone called me up and asked me for some cash to spread around their precinct.
Okay, we're not gonna get into this, Eric, please, not,
It's not on
not
the
now,
agenda,
not
and
now,
point
not
of
now.
interest, you don't discuss
We
personal
lost
matters.
everything we had. It's
Matters.
completely gone,
No, it's not.
completely gone.
Okay, enough. Council Clark.
I recognize that you've made an investment of time and energy in not only our town, but especially as it relates to analytics and industry. And I do realize that Councilor Burdick was very eloquent actually in explaining that our life experiences and education brings us to a philosophy or a perspective as it relates to our involvement with whatever community we're on. So I am actually very comfortable with folks who think differently from me, and I embrace it so that I can contribute to a greater understanding of a different perspective for me. So I don't necessarily consider our difference of opinion political. I just think that it just brings in different perspective, often enlightening. So I hear what you say, and I appreciate your investment.
I think, I know this is a hard time for the council, but for me, I appreciate what you have to say.
Necessarily, it's not how I just trying to give due diligence to whatever I signed up for, and I don't do it for the money. Often said that. I do it because we think we have something to contribute at this time and place, so, and as a
Council Jefferson.
Last question.
I feel like it's set up.
No, there's a lot to chew on here, so, I guess as far as your application as a Hyannis resident in this, at the appeals level, if you had one thing that you could, maybe recommend to this committee, that you could bring and you could say, you know, on day one, I'd like everybody to consider this change, this item, this idea, this principle, what would that be?
Well, for appeals, so the challenge with appeals is the design guidelines. And I've spoken to the planning, spoken planning department about it, and you know, it's not an open discussion. So, you know, it's being engineered when we do that on the town hall. So there's not a lot of, like, they say, okay, if you want to contribute to the design guidelines, you can write some law. Consider it. And that's not what we right now. Okay, what we need is a little more open process, and I can't provide that, but being on the appeals committee might give me the authority to sit in, maybe occasionally get an invite to the meeting, and maybe to, pass a note to planning about this or that design consideration that's being overlooked. But this position of appeals is really, it's a regulatory position. You cannot be outspoken, right? You can't, broadcast your decision or how you feel about something. You're actually gonna shut me up by taking this role. No, it's the twisted logic here, but you need to have a discussion about design, and I'm gonna try to, however quietly, facilitate that. And I'm gonna try to recruit one of our architects, and try to rebuild some of those, the design sensibility downtown. I think Amanda might be available to that. I think she's pretty smart. She's, but I want to talk to her, see what she's going to do. But we've got to get this thing back on balance, so that's my goal, is just to focus on the design thinking, architectural design, and try to bring some cohesiveness to downtown. This, it's not a little regular.
Any other questions?
Thank you guys very much. I'm sorry to be such a bother.
No
I
bother,
appreciate it.
no bother. Aaron Webb. Hey, Aaron. How you doing?
Nice to see you. Aaron. Nice to see you. Aaron, what's nice to see you? Good to see you, Aaron. Nice to see you.
Okay, well, we've interviewed Aaron before. He was placed, but was bifurcated, so I really have no questions.
What about the confusion about whether you were a INS resident or whatever? What's that all about?
What happened, Charlie, is that we didn't have I don't think we had an extra. That was it. So we gave Amanda the business and we gave her the residence law, because it's with a resident of the district, if possible. I think that's what happened. If I remember correctly, Cynthia, is that true?
I'd like to actually ask Aaron to, I had a conversation with legal about this.
So did I. But hold on, just 1 second, Chris.
Hello.
Hi.
Cindy,
Cindy.
Town Council Administrator. What happened was in 2019, Sarah Colvin, a Hyannis resident, resigned to take a job at the Cape Cod Commission. That left Mary Ann Agresti and Allison Alessi. Mary Ann was the business, she was the Hyannis resident. Allison was the architect. For 4 years, there were no applications at all.
So
The
Aaron was
appeals.
placed. Oh,
Then there was 3 appeals that needed to be heard. So we had heard from the Planning and Development Department that we need to get somebody on the appointments committee so that these appeals could be heard. That was in 2022. In 2023, Mr. Webb applied. The appointments committee at the time, Nick Atzelis and I have Paul Neary, yep. They looked at the charge, saw that there were appeals that needed to be heard. Aaron's application was the only one in 4 years that was placed, and the charge says where possible, an architect, where possible, a business owner, and where possible, a Hyannis resident. Because there were appeals that needed to be heard, the appointments committee at the time recommended Aaron to serve. He did not say at his time of the interview that he was a Hyannis resident. In fact, he was emphatic that he was a business owner. That's how he got on the board.
was placed on the board as an exception to the Hyannis resident
Correct.
position. And part of that theory being he owns a business in Hyannis.
Correct.
So he was placed in the Hyannis resident position.
Because
Correct.
there's no resident.
Because
No, I know.
he was the only application in 4 years. That's
And
how-
it's not a Hyannis, it's a district resident.
Correct. Correct.
So it's not a Hyannis resident, it's a
No, the
district.
Hyannis district resident.
Waterfront district.
So. May I?
Yeah.
I'm ready
No,
anytime, yeah,
no.
so. And I appreciate that history from Cynthia, I think she's on point with it for sure. Again, none of that was ever just told to me at the time of my application back when I first applied 2022 or 3, I can't quite remember. And I have a couple agendas here that I printed out for myself. Nowhere does it say that I was the Hyannis resident, even though I wasn't. Had I known that, and Mariana Gressi then resigns as the business owner, I probably would have come back to the appointments committee or asked to say, hey, can I slide over to the business owner's position, which is my only relationship to this committee, owning a business on Main Street, Hyannis. Again, never in my agenda, which I have here that I printed up, was to say Hyannis resident slot. So again, I will take some blame, I guess, in my naivety of understanding it, but I put, also, I think it should be shared amongst the appointments committee at that time and vice versa, but even now, that there's that confusion going on, that again, I never knew when I was appointed, because it's never laid out in any of the agendas when I came, and was never discussed that I was gonna be placed in the Hyannis resident spot. It just says right here, regular member, term expires 6/30/2024. Regular member. So that doesn't define any which way who's doing what, okay, so that might explain part of the reason why when Marianne resigned, I never came back. I would have come back at that point and said to the appointments committee, I was placed in the Hyannis resident spot, if I had known, and now the Hyannis business owner spot is vacant, can I reapply for that spot? Right, would have made sense, because, anyway, so I did that. I didn't have a chance, because again, it was never explained to me that's the case. I'm also just slightly confused about Amanda Converse's position here, because on the agendas for her appointment, term expires 6/30/2024. Same as mine, same as Allison's. When I go to the town council agenda, when she was read in, it says 6/30/2025. So
They're only year-to-year positions that are open.
Yep.
And at the time when she was appointed, because it was only 30 days before 15 days before the term expired, the appointments committee appointed her on that day to 2025, which is why she ended up on the town council agenda
gotcha.
for 2025.
Yep, so, again, a part of, I think, all the confusion, in my opinion, that is, and again, I appreciate that, I didn't know that, so again, but when I read it first, I said, geez, this is odd, because again, the agenda that she appeared before the appointments committee at the time said her term was for 2024, so, that all being said, I knowing now, if there's some truth, then I would take, the chair's, that the position is a district, Hyannis district resident seat, then we don't have an applicant for that particular position, as far as I know. I'm not sure if other applicants have applied that actually live within the district or not.
Mr. Peckham does,
Mr. Peckham, yep,
according to the town council leadership.
gotcha. Well, anyway, so here I am. So again, Amanda Converse, very well, fills that business position. I think is equally as I would. I'm disappointed I didn't get a crack at that particular spot, because I would like to stay on this committee. It's important to me. I've heard, since I've been on it, there have been 2 cases that have come before us, 2 appeals, one of which was dismissed by the town. The second one was Mr. Bornstein's project down on the waterfront that was appealed by Mr. Kirker. And you can review that to see, how I presented myself, in that. I don't, I appreciate what Mr. Schwab had to say about the particulars of the job, or I just don't know if, and again, I'm not necessarily concerned about his opinions on it, other than I don't think the appeals committee necessarily fits into those type of parameters. It sounded to me, listening to that conversation, that, you know, that was more of the board itself, the Hyannis Main Street Waterfront Historic District Committee, not the appeals committee. The appeals committee, in my opinion, is to listen to appellants' arguments and judge them depending upon the case-by-case basis. That's simply what I consider the appeals committee to be. It's not for me to make determinations whether or not a project fits within the characteristics that, you know, that I might believe should be part of those decisions, I guess, or those projects per se. You know, it's not, I'm not a design guy, I'm not an architect, I'm not, you know, I care about the village of Hyannis just as much as Mr. Bloom or Ms. Turkelson cares about the village of Centerville to it. You guys sit on the town council, get to make opinions upon all the villages, and that's, God, you've been elected for that position, and I have complete and utter respect for that. I live in Centerville, I care just as much about Main Street Hyannis and the village of Hyannis as I do about Centerville. It's just, we live in the town of Barnstable, and our town is cut into the 7 villages. It doesn't mean that I don't care about Barnstable, you know, Hyannis, Osterville, Jewett, Parsons Mills, so, that's how I approach it. I think I've done that, over the, you know, the 2, appeals. When I looked across the landscape of committees and boards, after joining the zoning board of appeals, saw this vacancy there. Didn't know at the time that it would become as hot button sort of issue as it might be considered now. But knew there was some things happening within the town council, you know, zoning wise and so forth, and thought maybe there would be an opportunity to, again, be there to assist and volunteer my time to hear appeals. I think I've done that to the best of my ability and don't, you know, regret it and want to continue on. It's important to me that we have level-headed people hearing those appeals, listening to the cases, case-by-case basis, and again, you know, in Mr. Bornstein's case and the appeal filed by Mr. Kirker, it appeared to me as if, you know, that project, we're all very familiar with it. It's been down the rabbit hole multiple times. The most recent appeal that or the most recent project that he put forth fit within the parameters of the zoning. He wasn't looking for variances. He wasn't looking for setbacks. He wasn't looking for any necessarily help zoning wise. It was approved by the historic committee. I felt like it made the most sense, again, listening to the appeal, to uphold that, respecting Mr. Kirker's opinion and his ability to appeal. That's what the appeal process is there for. But at the end of the day, it fit within the parameters and it made sense. It wasn't necessarily my job, in my opinion, to weigh in on whether or not it was applicable and should be either, you know, rescinded or continued on. So I just, you know, that's how I approach it.
Just make a point of information,
Sure.
just reading from the E code, it says, where possible, from the Hyannis business community, one who is a resident of Hyannis.
There's no notion of a
The
district.
district part, it's not, they don't need to be a
Expansive.
member of this district. It's a
That's
resident.
what town council president told me, I'm just
Yeah,
relaying
yeah,
a
no,
message
no,
from her.
I just happened to look it up, I'm just sharing the information that's in the code.
Yeah.
So it's a resident of Hyannis.
Could you?
Great. I'm not the one who put that forth. I'm
No,
sorry.
no, no,
I know
no, I wasn't point of order for you, I was just
Print it
point
out.
of order for everybody in
I'll
the
print
room.
it.
Thank you.
Possible from the Hyannis business community, one who is a resident of Hyannis, and one member where it's cut off, but I think it's where Barnstable is the architect.
Well, yeah, and the Hyannis resident, when able, correct?
Yeah, it says one who is a resident, again, I'm on my cell phone, so she's gonna get
Sure.
it, but my point of the point of order or point of information is that it's a resident of Hyannis, not a resident of the district. I just wanted to clarify that, because that seemed like confusion in the room, so.
So, yeah, again, I don't know what to say about it, other than I feel like I've missed an opportunity here. I don't really take the blame for that in missing the opportunity to, to be categorized or put into that particular slot if the committee, and again, I hope new ad hocs that were developed to look at these boards and committees within the town, will look at this and say, does this necessarily make sense? Do we want to put these restrictions or these classifications on the three positions of, again, I'm not on that committee, I can't make that decision, but I think hopefully they'll look at it, and at which point they can make that decision. But I understand the committee's set, in its code, for lack of a better term, to include those three different, I just feel like I missed out on an opportunity, and again, I don't think it was my doing, so.
I think that it's unfair that what you went through and what happened to you, but the fact of the matter is, it was kicked out from council. So I'm about process, so it has to be a Heinz responsible. I mean, I voted for you to be on it.
Yeah, I get it.
So I think it's unfair, but since it was kicked back, we have 2 Highness residents that are applying. One of those should be placed on the committee. That's the way I.
Just a point of information, just so that we're clear. My understanding, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is that in the case where that high-end business owner exited, it's not just a sliding over to the other slot, especially if there's other people that applied. So we have this committee made a decision that anytime an opening comes up, a reappointment or even a moving of places would always be an opportunity for anyone that applied to make that application. So at that time, if all of us had been aware, I'm taking my responsibility in what happened too, we would have interviewed you and we would have interviewed Amanda for the high-end business position. So it wouldn't just have been, from my position, I'm seeing it as it wouldn't have been an automatic slide over. So for that instance, I apologize that we were plodding along and we didn't catch this mistake until now.
Yeah,
And as far as fairness, I'd like to say that I think out of fairness to you, it's not fair to you, but it's also not fair to not give a high-end resident the position that's written in the code. So it's like we're on multiple levels trying to make best a mistake that happened in the past that was carried forward, that didn't get caught until now, and here we are. So there's blame to go all around for previous appointments that I wasn't part of, and for the community that I'm part of.
Well, you
now.
have to remember that at that time, we didn't have a Heinz president.
No, I know, but what I'm saying is that whatever mistakes were made at that time.
Well,
I wasn't
subsequent to
part of
that, yeah,
Like,
yeah.
so I
No,
can't take ownership for that, I can
Yeah.
only take ownership for what's going on here, so. But I think what we would have done, we would have interviewed you and Amanda, and maybe made the decision, and maybe Amanda would have been chosen, would have chosen you.
of course,
And
yeah,
that's hearsay, so-
but again, when Mary Ann resigned, it was way prior to Amanda even remotely applying. So regardless, it's water under the bridge at this point. I'm not worried about fairness. Do I feel like there's some, of course, but that's okay. I get it. I'm a big boy. I can handle it. I appreciate the committee's charge here, the appointments committee's charge of picking and following what is written on this sheet. There's not, I 100% appreciate that. It's, I feel like there was a missed opportunity there for myself and from the previous appointments committee, I guess, because this particular committee is relatively new to it. When I was appointed, it was, Mr. Mendes was here, Mr. Neary, Ms. Schnepp, I think, and 2 others. So again, regardless, it is what it is, right? It is,
Opportunity, but it wasn't your fault.
Well, I'll take some, I guess. I mean, I just, again, the history here shows that when it was never laid out clearly, and I don't know whose fault that is. I don't.
No, but that's
Yeah.
what I'm saying, is I think that the previous group
Yep.
would have some responsibility in that, and I don't think.
Well,
With no
again,
with no malintent,
well,
and so, and we're just, here we are with what we have today.
Yep.
we have to move forward from where we are, so.
Again,
Yeah, and it's unfortunate.
yeah, there was just no, there was no residents, so we had to cite somebody to the salon,
No,
because we had
I know.
appeals that were piling up. So we had no choice but to do that.
Well, regardless, you know, I don't know necessarily if the appointment, again, the language here, where possible, right? So that is vague enough, in my opinion, that you still have the ability to pick the person best suited for the position, regardless of residency.
And I don't think anyone here is saying that we don't
Of
have
course,
that ability.
I
mean, I think that's why-
I'm trying to make a case for myself that I feel like,
The conversation I had with Attorney Nober was, if even with Amanda being placed as she was, in the position opening, and you're up for reappointment, we would have interviewed you, and we would have interviewed any other people that applied, you'd be in the same spot, you still could be voted on to that position today, because it says where possible. This doesn't have to be. But again, we wanted to open it up so that we have the ability to have a Hyannis resident have the opportunity to be
Sure.
considered, as opposed to just reappointing you. If we just reappointed you and signed on the dotted line, then we would never have the opportunity to seek a Hyannis resident. So that's really what we're doing, is giving, if we had 5 other people that wanted to apply, they would be here too. So it's, and you would be one of those individuals. Just like we did with the Board of Health, we re-interviewed the Board of Health people, because again, it wasn't gonna be just a rubber stamp, you got put along. If there hadn't been anybody else for the positions, then they get reappointed by matter of lack of having somebody in the seat. But when we have people that are applying, we want it to be, we made as a committee that we would be interviewing all applicants, reappointments and.
Understood.
So that's what we're here for today.
Great.
So. And I think my only other question is on your application, originally you didn't state that you work in commercial real estate. And I know that Councilor Whitbeck also works in that same commercial real estate. I'm just wondering why that wasn't put on your original application.
you know, I'll be quite honest with you, I dabble very, very, infrequently doing it. I wasn't even, it was simply an oversight. I don't do a ton of it. I do more of it now than I did when I first applied, but I wasn't even really actively working there. I hung my license there, but I was doing nothing. In fact, I hadn't even done a deal in commercial real estate when I applied for this. So it just wasn't in my frame of mind. That's simply it, And I think, in fact, I can't speak for Mr. Levesque, but he does less than I do. I mean, so, but that doesn't make any difference. It is what it is. My business is daily paper owner is my priority. I got my license up to Tornado Tuesday back in 2017, I think, when the hotel lost its roof. I had to drive through Bedford in the middle of it to get to the testing site. And I did nothing with it up until most recently, probably a year or so, or a year and a half, 2 years ago. I can't remember. But it was prior to filling this stuff out, so that's, yeah, it was fun.
Councilor Burdick. I don't have any questions, I don't think. Their interview been going on now quite a while about all this. So,
Councilor Clark.
thank you.
Thank you very much. I was gonna say, knowing Councilor Burdick's experience, are you busy enough with the rest?
Yeah, but it's, this fills some time, and, I was the president of the Centerville Civic for a year when we had a little gap there. Yeah, I just enjoyed the staying in touch and being involved, and yeah, I got a zoning meeting tonight at 7. It's, it's the zoning, I don't favor one over the other. It's just that those are more frequent than the appeals.
Very robust participation.
We do, yep, and it's a good one, and it's there's a lot to learn, and I'm still, every time I go, I learn something new, and I appreciate that, and but again, I approach that not necessarily the same way, because there are some, depending on whether a variance or a special permit, or there are some parameters which we need to follow to follow that. So yeah, I find the time.
Yeah, it's, we can't judge what another group has done. That there was another makeup of the appointments committee, and there was another makeup of applicants. The lack of
We're not.
lack of finance staff applicants.
Yeah.
And I have to say, I'm very humbled and energized by people who have stepped up. I'm blown away by some of the talent that presents themselves to our appointments committee.
Sure.
To present themselves to work for free on behalf of the community. So I appreciate what you've done on
course.
CBA and for the appeals committee. And that this description of the committee has not been hidden, but you have to know how to find it in the code to know that the specifics. And what I'm fully aware, there was no Chinese applicant at the time.
Yeah, I don't wanna, regurgitate the same stuff, I feel like, again, looking back at my hearing, agenda, it was, and again, I don't point fingers at the appointments committee for that, it's just, it was, there's been some confusion, and I disagree with the town council making it, let's bring it back and figure it out, and that's where we are, so, I have complete utter respect for that, yeah.
Absolutely.
I just wanna apologize for the confusion, message.
Well, I appreciate that. Again, I don't share in some of the nativity or the lack of it. I should, I guess, been more on top of it in hindsight. And but again, I do feel like this is it's you guys have been overwhelmed. There's no doubt, and not just your committee, but I think the board's committee overall in general. It feels like there's been a lot put on your plate, and I get that. So.
Well, we can handle whatever is put on our plate.
Sure.
It's just that in this particular instance, you were owed an apology.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah.
Was-
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it. Like I said, I can handle it. I appreciate the fairness of it. It's given me a fair crack at reapplying, and I'm doing that. And my intent is to stay on the committee if I so can, and we'll continue to do what I've done thus far. My omission about the commercial real estate, sure, I'll take responsibility for that. Nobody else can, I should have, I guess, included that on my application at the time. Because I was trying to pull the wool over somebody's eyes. It wasn't because Matt Levesque is a part of that committee. It had nothing to do with that. It was solely just it not being on my it's just not my priority, it's not what I do, so, but I've done more of it now, and that's, I didn't fill out a new application for today, maybe I should have, I don't know, again, I didn't even know I was on this agenda until I walked into the coop this morning at 9 o'clock. So I am, I guess, slightly unprepared in some ways, but I saw Seth this morning, we had a quick chat, and he said, I'll see you at 3 o'clock. And I
And
said,
you're like, what?
I said, for what? Yeah, I had no idea. And quickly, we both jumped on I got in my car and and there I was. And so, yeah, I don't know. I had a chance to fill out new applications, possibly I would have, put that back on. I just didn't even know that was, that was part of it. So, which again, again, sort of regret. I wish I had an opportunity to fill out a new application and present it to you guys in that way. I sent that email out, Mr. Bloom called, and I appreciated that, but I didn't hear from anybody else, so about my request to get in front of you guys and see you, so I don't know.
Well, I did spend an hour with Attorney Gilbert going over the machinations and the ins and outs. And her comment to me was that you felt it was unfair to you, and I agree with her that it was unfair, the circumstances rolling along as they did. And her, her request to me was, he just wants to be heard, and I'm thinking, well, of course we want to hear from him. And again, you don't know this, but the intention was to never not have you come back and actually interview for this position, because just as I said, you're up for reappointment, there's somebody else applying, we would interview you and anybody else who's applying, and maybe you didn't know that information, and I apologize that wasn't given to you.
Yep.
But that's how the committee's been working since January, that's what we've been doing, which is part of what I said on town council that night. The reason we pulled it out was we made an effort, anybody that's being reappointed, if there was somebody else who applied, we would interview the reappointed and interview the new people. So, and if you didn't watch that meeting, you wouldn't know that, but, and I guess I didn't respond because it's like now on the phone with the train over, I knew that you were gonna be on here, I guess I just would have thought after her conversation that, as she explained it to me, that she had had a conversation and that would have been disseminated to you, so I apologize. that you
Yeah,
didn't
no,
respond.
again, when I sent the email, and there was no agenda posted at that point. That's when I sent the email out to
Well,
say,
we didn't have a schedule meeting.
well, yeah, again, but you know, if to be put on, I'm good, I appreciate the opportunity, I'm glad you know, spent $1.75 at Seth's place, which I spent more. Unfortunately, I wasn't hungry, so I didn't get anything else to eat, but I got a cup of coffee.
We gotta get you home so you can eat and come back.
And, you know, but again, I'm glad I saw him, otherwise I probably wouldn't be here at the point, and that would be, you know, so.
Well, if you weren't here, we would have called you and rebooked your appointment. And you would have known about it.
Yeah, well, that was a good
Then you
point,
wouldn't be
yeah.
upset with that
Next
kind
time
of
I
a
won't, next time I
process.
won't show up, then no, I like to be on time, I like to be present when I'm requested to be, or when I have an opportunity to be, so that's what I don't rearrange my schedule for appeals or zoning, I mean, I know it's marked on my calendar, and, you know, as you guys know, you got a meeting on a Thursday, you pencil it in, and you make them when you can, and occasionally you're gonna miss a couple, but, you know, I don't, I try to be prompt, and where I'm supposed to be, when I'm supposed to be, and my wife helps me with that, so,
As mine does too.
that's right, exactly, so. Well,
Thank you for your understanding.
yeah, of course, yeah, well, I appreciate the opportunity, I do, and again, I don't, you know, I don't come in with a whole bunch of preset sort of opinions or determinations before, you know, the little bit of research that sometimes, you know, cases demand, before a hearing. Just like the ZBA and, the appeals committee follows that same suit on my book, so. All right. Okay, appreciate it, yeah. Of course, yeah, you got it, yeah. Thanks,
Yeah,
appreciate it.
Thanks again, yeah, sure.
Thank
Nice
you
to meet
very
you,
much.
yeah, President, yeah, likewise, there. Be good, Seth. Yep, I'll see you, I'll spend some more money.
Please do.
Yeah.
I got the David paper twice.
How much is a cup of coffee?
Yeah, $1.75, but I brought my own coffee.
I gotta bring your own.
All right, have fun, good to see you guys.
See you later.
You do get a discount if you bring your own coffee.
At my stores.
Wow, good to know.
75 cents less.
Wow.
Can I use, or do you want to take 5 or do you mind?
Yeah, you want
No,
some
I
five?
don't want to, I don't know what you guys want to do.
No,
I just
go ahead,
want to
take
say I
5.
want to use it. I'm like,
Oh, okay. All right. Ready?
Sure, sorry. This is a phone call.
No, no
Are we
worries.
still on, Cindy?
I did. I
Did
did.
you
Same
record
time.
your own still on?
I'm not recording it, it's the,
Close that.
Have
Yeah.
more broken refrigerators.
All right, so we have the committee to review, and it says zoning. To review for the town of Barnstable, we have an empty slot. So. Anybody want to discuss that? Anybody have any ideas you really like before we start nominating?
Hopefully she was ready to nominate or to appoint and set that in.
Yeah. I
I'd like
mean,
to make a motion to nominate Adam Muir.
hold on, we're not doing
Sorry.
nomination.
Okay, sorry.
Um,
I thought we were.
no, we're discussing and then we'll
Okay.
do nominations. Anybody else?
That there were, well, I mean, there were so many people. It's hard to pick between all of them at this point. I remember them.
Well, we can take Chris Kuhn off there.
Where you go. Chris
And we can
Gregory, I
take-
like.
We can take Catherine Campos Wadeka
Yep, she's on
and
there.
Alsman off. No, she'll be up.
Adam Merrick, he's the fellow who used to be in the energy thing.
Yes.
See, I agree with Felicia with Seth Etienne. He's young. He's young yet he fulfills a demographic that isn't currently represented on the board as far as age. He is a teacher, so he can bring a different perspective to us. He has the educational background from Virginia Tech as far as architecture goes. So that's who I would like to see. Because like I said, I think he fulfills a role, especially with his age, his occupation, that we just don't have on that board.
Yeah, I think
That's my
Seth or Adam, either one of them.
I agree with Seth. My concern with Seth is kind of a piggyback of Chris Kuhn, is that once he gets back in school and he also coaches soccer, that his hours are gonna be limited in meetings, and so, you know, it's like we've already had one person who we put on there and couldn't make the meetings because of timing, so my concern is that he's gonna be a busy guy come another month when soccer starts up and school gets back and.
When do these committees sunset? Is it October?
Well, they're gonna be pushed out because we started late. So the town council president has said that she's not gonna adhere to the dates that are currently there. When the town council president asked me to reach out to Seth,
Mhm.
I did ask that question to him about commitment because of the last member
Mhm.
doing the work. Most of his stuff happens at 2 p.m. and goes till 4.
Okay.
Twice a week, he said, I believe, but I can get him to put it in writing if you want, but that's what he told me. I believe I don't know if the town council president called to ask before she made the recommendation.
I feel comfortable nominating, but I'm not going to do the nomination, so.
I'll nominate him. Meaning, I nominate Seth Etienne for the open spot on the committee to review and assess zoning and review the town's use of regulatory agreements ad hoc committee.
Second.
I'd like to nominate Adam Muir for the committee to review and assess zoning and review the town's use of regulatory agreements ad hoc committee.
Second.
All right, let's vote.
Okay, Mr. Chair, it's your committee, so you can hold the vote.
All right, who's in favor of Seth Etienne? Who's Adam Merrick?
Adam Merrick.
Who's in favor of Adam Merrick?
So that's 3-3.
No, I voted twice.
Yeah.
Oh,
First one was-
She can't vote
I
twice.
know.
She threw it off, that's why I was waiting for somebody else to say, and say, wait a minute.
No, you can't.
No. You can nominate and only vote.
Sorry.
Otherwise, we'd be in a deadlock. all the
Yeah, I
time.
know, I know.
We should really talk to Felicia and see if we can get some alternates on these things.
Well, just like Councilor Clark said, and President Penn said the same thing, just because you're not on the committee doesn't mean you shouldn't show up and attend. And be part of the discussion. The only thing the members have is just a vote.
Yeah.
More than what a resident or anybody else on the committee might. I mean, if you're in the discussion, you're participating in the discussion, your ideas are going to the members, so.
Okay, so now, so Etienne carried, right?
Yeah, and I'm happy about that. He's a good guy.
6 of 1 half dozen. So does somebody want to nominate Murphy?
I'm nominated.
I'll second that.
All right. Who's in favor? Yeah. Okay, Highness Main Street Water Appeals. Now, do you want to vote on this today, or do you want to wait for Peckham? How do you guys want to handle this?
But we already interviewed.
You know,
Everybody's been interviewed already.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that he, I don't know how his name got here.
Town
Because-
council president
Town council president put him here.
asked me to put him on the agenda because he sent an email for, I believe, to her, requesting that he be considered.
I thought he wanted to be considered for one of the slots on zoning.
You're right.
Yeah, he applied to the zoning ad hoc committee, but wasn't placed on.
No, the zoning
The
appeals
ZBA?
committee.
No, that's what he's going for now.
No, he's applying, Stephen Peckham is applying for the waterfront appeals committee.
He just wasn't
He's saying
able to
the
come
zoning
today.
Oh, sorry.
So I'm not really sure
CBA.
if he wants to be on this, or, because he spoke to me about wanting to be on.
The appeals.
Yeah, but you can apply for one.
But I guess this question is he applying for more than one, or
Or is this?
do you have his
I will go
application?
look for his email. I believe Felicia forwarded to me.
And Cindy, do you have his actual application?
I'm sorry?
Do you have his actual application where he checked off what he wanted to apply for?
That's what I was just thinking. That's what we used to do. Oh, the ones that were broken last week, are fixed. The ones that were broken this week.
Welcome to summer. So it is.
Doesn't? Oh, yeah. One broke this morning. So that was. Oh, still more come and go.
Someone comes and goes?
Oh, people get sick. There's been a lot of COVID. So it's been a lot of people coming and going. Hey. Sorry, it's too late now.
Yeah, I guess so.
Koval's?
Okay.
Koval's a Long Beach.
Oh, really?
Once in a while with a Samsung line. Or that out there, at this house.
Oh, yeah.
June was just the same. I mean, it was just crazy.
It's not that they're hot.
So I complain. I like money.
No, I know,
You know.
but it's still like,
It's taxing.
oh yeah, and then you also don't feel like you have time to like have a life outside of that. You have no time to spend your money.
No.
Yeah.
My kids,
Yeah, they'll spend it for you.
they see that and spend. Now they get kids out. They're adults.
I always says to me, do this now.
Come do that.
Well,
Kills your.
You're walking on Craig Hill with your daughter, last week.
11. Well, she's having.
It looked like it
What-
was a
what
small
day?
gas.
Can't farm.
Was it over the weekend?
My wife thought
She goes the whole
this
time.
year was.
But then she does, she only has a couple of weeks of sleep.
I might have been walking on the beach.
She rides horses.
I might have been walking on the beach. Maybe some of that, you know, so
She's great. Theodora. She goes like, you know,
Yeah, it's
CJ.
watched enough, meetings to know.
Yeah, but she's having a good time. It's just something stressful.
Does your wife watch
Occasionally, to try. I have no choice. There's nobody, like, for me, my work, it's not, it's just me, my wife, like, the partners, you know, 9 years ago, I left the end of the line. There's never a dwell beyond me. So, you know, how that goes. I always, you know, or you too, you're self-employed, that there's no place to go beyond. So when it comes to stuff that you have to handle, and you gotta do it in the most, you know, efficient way possible, most intelligent way possible. I just got to it, because I can't get that.
Hand it over to your wife and she's like, what's
Yeah, yeah.
what are
The
you
buck
talking about?
stops here, and Harry Chirpin said.
But I mean, that's the joy of being on busy stuff.
Yeah. I mean, it is.
It's a challenge. Well, no, you don't have to wait for anybody else to do it. You just do it.
You don't have to follow other people.
Yeah. Yeah, or like, oh, we're on next month,
Yeah.
we'll fund that.
I just grew up in
When my husband says to me, you should sell your clinic, I'm like, you remember that house? I don't like that person. I never might not like this person either.
Thank you.
Remember when I worked for corporate America?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's fine.
Kind of confused.
Why I keep them.
So what's the end result, Charlie?
He did not apply for the zoning. He applied for the committee for the Minnesota Street Waterfront District.
So the question I have for the board is, I guess he's on vacation. Do you want to vote on this today, or do you want to wait till the interview? Because we've interviewed everybody else multiple times, so it's up to you guys, whatever you guys want to do, whatever the group wants, you guys are fine, so. Everybody want to vote?
Sure, why not? Might as well, I guess.
All right, nominations.
Also nominated Steve Becker.
Second.
I nominate Eric Schwartz.
Second.
All right. Steve Peckham.
Okay.
All right.
Four.
Carries.
Mr. Schwab. No, one vote. Oh, sorry, I think there was a reason for that. So it's Mr. Peck.
All right. Any other business?
What'd you say?
The two openings on next week?
Cynthia, is there two openings?
The other's for the architect.
For the architect. Allison Alessi design,
When possible.
so, correct? But we might want to, Kristen may want to ask legal again, so that we don't end up in the same pickle that we ended up with Aaron in not appointing an architect.
I don't think that what she said to me wasn't that what happened in the previous committee was improper, or that if we were to go outside of those bounds. I think what she said to me was that Mr. Webb wanted to be heard,
Okay,
in that She said it does say, do you have the language? It does say, where possible. So one member where.
Yeah, I have no
possible,
vote or I have no opinion or teeth in the game,
Yeah,
it's
no,
whatever
no,
you
no,
guys
but I'm
wanna
just
do.
clarifying, she wasn't saying we couldn't where possible.
Okay.
She just wanted us to make sure that Mr. Webb had a chance to speak,
I understand.
and that we all had a debriefing, which I think we did.
Okay.
So if.
I just don't wanna end up
Yeah,
in
no,
the
no,
same
yeah,
spot if an architect comes forward, because this position has not been advertised a lot, she just resigned. So I don't know if an architect's gonna, I have no idea,
and
I don't.
So if it hasn't been advertised, then how are we gonna?
Well, it's advertised now, but it hasn't been advertised for long, and if Mr. Schwab is looking for an architect, I think you should give him the consideration of either trying to find one, or,
Thank you.
I don't know, that's what I heard.
Yeah, I heard.
I mean, I will volunteer to recruit architects. That's what you like, what advertise for.
Yeah, I don't know, I thought that's what you said, sir, I'm sorry,
No,
I misquoted you.
No, I think you're 100% correct. I think that we can find an architect. You know, if you.
Well, I just wanna do what we need to do to fill these positions. So if we think that we should wait for an architect, that's fine. If we wanna fill this tonight, we'll go tonight.
how about this, we will advertise it, and then we'll push this to the next meeting for a vote, if there's not an architect who applies in the next.
If you can't find an architect, I'm gonna reapply.
Yeah, then you got it. All right. That's fine with me. I mean, if Mr. Schwab can find us an architect, that'd be great. If not, we apply and then we slide right into that slot.
As far as you know, are there any,
I have not received any
no, I
applications.
meant any, items before the appeals committee? Is there?
There is not.
Any pressure to?
Not yet.
For them to have?
No, but that doesn't mean tomorrow there won't be.
Understood. Understood, yeah.
There's a quorum with 2 on the committee, so you're fine, you have a quorum, and you really should fulfill the obligations of the charter, which is to find an architect.
You're right.
If we can.
Yeah.
If we can.
Right, all the rights available?
No, I better go to school. All right.
Do you want to see?
Oh, Jesus, we're not done yet.
Now, we have C, D, E,
I was all excited.
no, we haven't yet.
Yeah, I was packing up. All right, so let me see, discussion. Recommendation. All right, let's do some nominations. Airport Commission.
I'll nominate Paul Phelan.
I second that.
Any other nominations?
I'll nominate Michael Curtis.
I'll second that.
Okay, let's vote. All for Paul Phelan. All for Michael Curtis. All right, Paul Phelan it is.
Board of Health, I'm a big Paul Caniff fan.
Can we just review how many spaces are currently open on the Board of Health, Cindy, just so that we're all clear? Because we had John Norman step out.
And you have 2 for consideration of reappointment, Mr. Caniff and Mr. Buckley.
So we need to fill a vacancy
Yep, and reappoint 2.
and reappoint it.
All right, let's start.
So basically we have 3
Three.
openings.
Yeah,
Correct.
so do you guys want to reappoint?
Yes,
That's the question. Okay.
I nominate Paul Kenneth.
Second.
Paul Cannon? Okay. Somebody else wanna?
Did we do Dan Luckdown?
That's who we interviewed today.
Yeah, that's right, but we didn't vote on it.
No.
We have 3 spots, so we've done 1, we've got 2 more.
Right,
We
so
got
he
2
would
more.
be 2, and then I'll nominate D. Scott Schmidt. For the
Well,
open
let's
spots.
go in
You want to do
order.
reappointment?
Yeah,
Whatever.
let's
You
do the
wanna
let's do
nominate-
the reappointment and then we'll
Go
go to
from
the
there.
nominations, yeah. So somebody else wanna nominate the other reappointment?
I'll nominate,
Okay.
Dan, let's go.
Second.
All in favor?
So you did the reappointments and now you've got to fill the vacancy.
Okay,
I'd like to make a suggestion
sure.
that, at this time, got his name, as a fellow serving as, an alternate, that we move him up before we consider a new applicant, and put the other applicant into the alternate.
Discussion?
I just don't know, are we allowed to do that?
We may,
You should hear from the chair and the members of the committee before considering moving somebody up. Usually that's what you do. You hear from them first, and then you also ask the candidate, I mean, if he doesn't want to. And I did not ask them, if, I didn't know that was part of this, so.
yeah, I know that wasn't part of the agenda.
No.
I understand that. But
No.
I made the suggestion that if there's anybody who has been sitting on the board as an alternate or an associate member, that they be considered first to be elevated before we bring on a new person.
Okay, so what you're recommending, based on that statement, what Cindy said, is that we wait for this last position, reach out to the chair, reach out to the person who's an alternate.
Yeah, because I didn't ask
Yeah.
Dr. Waller if he
Yeah.
would,
Yeah.
wanted to.
Yeah,
How does the committee feel about that?
That's fine. By
Is
me.
that- You good with that?
That's
Justin,
fine.
good with that? All right, I'm cool. I'm good with that, as long as everybody else is.
so we'll put that on the.
We'll put that on the agenda for next time.
Filling the vacancy?
Yeah,
Okay,
After you find out about the alternate, from the
Yes.
chair and the alternate himself.
Yep.
okay, so now we have, zoning board of appeals.
I nominate Natalie Fittinger.
I have a question about this, and I asked Cindy about it before. We had 3 originally. It was Paul Mazzola and Rod Devano, and Natalie. When we did the original.
Do we know if the other two people are not on here?
Well, that's what I asked about, but I didn't.
Okay, so we should hold on.
I don't know, hold on, but I'll nominate Rod Devano as I did the last time. I don't understand why they didn't feature on that. You know what I mean? Their applications are still
Yeah,
active.
this, you guys have to decide, because it's very confusing, when you set the agenda,
Sorry.
how far back you wanna go for those that have either put in applications,
Mhm.
you've put on other boards. I mean,
But for this one, there was.
you can go all the way back to
But no,
January.
But we
if you want.
deadlocked on this. and
I'm
that's-
sorry?
We deadlocked on this.
Seth, I think
Because-
you should just make a motion as to what you wanna do, and don't worry about that, and move forward.
Okay, but that's what I'm just trying to illustrate that we had, that there wasn't like they fell away.
No.
We just
no.
deadlocked and it was still current with Natalie. It was all at the same time. Anyway, I'll nominate Rod Devano.
Do we wanna reach out to the other two people and see if they're still interested and then vote on this next
That's
time?
what I think we should do. I think we should reach out to the people who are actually better interested.
Okay.
So we
That's
can
fine
bring
with
them all to the table and
Yeah,
have it
because-
their
Cause
process.
if not, then we don't wanna put them on.
Yeah, then we don't wanna put them on a board, then we'll put them.
Yeah, I mean, I just would imagine that since it was, because it was all at the same time, it
I
wasn't
agree.
as if we wouldn't know one way or another. If I put in an application in for something and I never heard back, I would be still wondering, what's going on? I guess the wheels of government move very slowly.
Which they do.
Apparently, slower and slower. But anyway, I'll do whatever you want.
I make a motion that we table the zoning board of appeals vote today. We reach out to Rod and Paul and see if they're still interested and make a vote at the next meeting.
Second.
Sounds great.
All right, all in favor? Okay. So recommendation of reappointments, committee members to the full council, CPAC,
If I may,
Comprehensive Financial Advisory. Yes,
before we leave, item C.
There was an update to the CFAC that I
Wait one
just-
second, she has a question about item C.
Sorry, item C, that, both Scott, Dr. Schmidt and, Tina Putnam were, interviewed. And, if they are still interested, I would suggest that we put them in the newly vacated
I think we need to vote on that.
alternate, right, I meant, should,
Well, they're on here because,
We never voted on this to begin with.
correct,
Yeah.
and we interviewed them,
Last
and I
month.
circled back with them, because Councilor Turkison wanted me to reach out to Ina, which I did. And,
And to Christine Beer.
yeah, I reached out to all of them, otherwise they would not be on this agenda. But that's why you're not seeing Paul Mazzola and Rodney Tavano for zoning, because I wasn't asked to reach out to them. I was just asked to reach out to Natalie, which I did, she was still interested, so that's what I'm saying, when we put this agenda together, we're really gonna make sure that
What we
you
have,
guys have decided how far back you wanna go for those that have applied, so that they all get included on here.
Yeah, understood.
yeah. Yeah, I
For
think we
fairness?
should, yeah, I think we should go back to January, to be honest.
Okay,
But I
Because it's
think,
it's the only fair way to do it, everybody has to be included.
But like for
Okay.
the zoning board of appeals, that was an active jeopardy, that.
yeah, but, so
That
we're
goes
gonna,
on.
we're gonna reach out to them and we'll vote on it.
But I mean,
Yeah,
to
there's
say that
still-
we would have to go like, say, well, we wanna go back a certain time, that was the jeopardy was in between those three candidates, and nothing has changed.
Yeah,
Which is in your packet, these are all the vacancies currently.
Yeah.
And you do have 2 associate members vacant on the ZBA.
yeah,
So
it-
who is making the agenda then? So did you, Jeff, and?
it's,
And you?
Jeff and Chris.
yeah,
So you
so,
guys are
it gets sent
responsible
to
for this
them.
agenda?
yeah, so what we're gonna do is that there was 3 left of the ZBA.
Yeah.
Okay. We're gonna notify the 3,
Yeah, I get all that, I'm just curious, that's what I was saying, it wouldn't seem logical to me to assume that that 2 of them had just dropped off.
yeah,
It
so
would have
we'll,
been, there were just a reproduction of what, the last time we voted.
yeah,
which was
so
what we had.
we're gonna table it to the next meeting,
Right, yeah,
and then we can make an informed decision.
I get it. I was just curious.
It's a lot of moving parts,
No kidding.
Yeah.
But.
fixing refrigeration system. Okay, and you were gonna say something about CFAX, Cindy?
Yes, I just heard this morning in the, agenda setting meeting that, from our Director of Finance, Mark Milne, that Jackie Johnson resigned.
Mhm.
So take her out of the CFAC. She wrote a book and she wanted to take a year's, leave of absence. But because that committee's right in the middle of doing their financial planning, it was suggested that she just resign. So she did that, but she didn't do it until this morning, so.
Okay,
And your agenda was already printed up, so I couldn't remove it. So that's the only one you do not have to worry about. And that leaves, a vacancy that we'll advertise for.
okay, so, Hector Gunther, as a regular member to the term, expires 6/30/2027. You have a nomination?
I'll nominate.
Second.
Just so you point of interest, just so you know, these committees that are on here are the 14 that Councilor Turkelson removed after we did all of the, interviews, so that's how these guys are on there.
Got it, thank you.
If we placed somebody else in there, then the reappointment name is not on here. These are the ones that are left over, that there were no fiscal applications to replace or interview individuals.
So basically, if you look through this list, all of these people are back any competition. My only question is the zoning board of appeals, the very last line, is Emmanuel Alves and Jake Dewey reappointments.
If you don't reappoint them,
We have no
reappoint them, you
ZBA.
have no ZBA.
Just checking. So I looked at. all
Can
of
we,
this.
can we move all of these?
Yeah. we could just-
Oh, yeah, you can do it all.
Yeah, let's.
You don't have to go through each and every
Yeah,
one
as
of
long-
them.
yeah,
These were the 14 that Kristen actually removed the 3-4 meetings ago to make sure that we had considered all applications and that everybody that had an interest in either the reappointments, they put in an application. We've either interviewed them, placed them on there, or not placed them, and then this is what's left over of the names that had no competition,
All right, let's move them all then.
basically.
So moved.
All in favor?
What do you need
One
to say?
second,
Oh.
as a consent agenda, our
Oh.
item D, as written. So moved, I second.
Okay, all in favor? All right, unanimous.
And then the last bit of business that you need to do is just to accept the resignation, obviously, from John Nono, we never tell anybody that
What
can't
about
resign.
E? What about E?
E2. And that is, a representative member from the recreation to the CPC. And how that normally happens is the committee members decide who that member should be to represent the recreation, and the Recreation Commission chose Sharon Brown to represent on the CPC, so that we could vote.
We never heard back from legal about conservation person, parks person, the whole legality of the state law and our town code. We never did really hear back from her.
I don't remember that topic.
Well, there was the way the CPC is made up, it's kind of like this, where it has representatives from other committees
Right,
and
yes.
5 residents.
Right.
And there was a question about the state law that developed the CPC, whether that supersedes the
Fine.
town code. Because if we put somebody from park, I think it was, we put someone from parks
Park and
in,
Rec or
we lose a regular resident on that CPC. So the question is which part,
Well, state law always governs.
she was not sure about that. And she was looking into it.
Usually it does.
Well, then, if it's a legal question, then we should wait.
Okay.
So, next.
I do think that CTC has been operating, that they have both a conservation commission representative and a recreation. And they've been down a member for about a year because of that.
Because of this holdup, yeah. Okay. So we gotta get an answer from legal.
All right, well, get an answer from legal, and then we'll figure it out next meeting. All right, resignation from a board of committee, Board of Health, John Nolan.
I move to accept his resignation.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Minutes.
I am not in favor of accepting.
Well,
Well, I'm just not. If I have, you can vote on it.
When you guys want to meet again?
tell me.
Today. You guys want to do next Wednesday?
I will if I can.
All right. 3 o'clock.
No, that's okay, I understand. I remember that conversation, so that's why I'm gonna hold on.
That's all we did. All the more reason I want to have that.
Okay, very good. We won't do that then. And I appreciate it.
Run off. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, 4 o'clock's fine.
Is everybody okay with 4 o'clock and then that's it?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, yep, always offer, always. Yeah.
We're gonna find
You
out.
got it.
Cindy,
Okay, sounds great.
next Wednesday at 4, can you make sure the room is available?
Wednesday, follow-up.
We have housing ad hoc at 5.
I don't think we're gonna have that much on the agenda.
Is that the 7th, August 7th?
20, today's the 24th, so it's like the 31st, right?
Oh, no, the housing committee's in here at 5 P.M. The ad hoc housing.
What do we, I don't think we're gonna have that big of an
We're gonna
agenda.
do the Board of Health thing, the CBA thing, maybe a CFAC, no, we won't have enough time. And then follow up on the committee chair, and there's 3 things.
We should have, be able to do that in an hour.
Yeah.
If not, I think we should be.
How about 3:30?
No.
It'll make us get it done, right?
Come on, Charles. Yeah, 4 o'clock's fine. Yeah, we only have 3 things on the agenda,
Okay,
because we're just gonna try to blast out these things that we,
so the 31st at 4 P.M.?
4 P.M. How's that for you, Mr. Moore?
That's okay, I've been somewhat trying to help, Rick on the housing, but I haven't heard back from him. But,
Yeah, I emailed them to Larry, I haven't heard from him.
all I would do if that was the case, I'm in the same building,
Okay,
and I'll grab a parking space.
all right.
If Charlie's not here, I get his part.
I feel like you're part of the committee, I see you all the time, so.
Who's gonna contact, Tony, no, I will.
All right, somebody wanna make a,
Since
I
I
move
brought
to
it up.
adjourn.
Second.
Yes, of course, always.
all right, all in favor? John wants to stay.
All right. We'll see you, Larry.